It's finally here. Mickey 17. And all I can really say is,
I mean, it's alright.
I'm joking. I'll get into the film in a minute, but in case you don't know much about it, Mickey 17 is a sci-fi comedy based on the novel Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton, released in 2022, adapted for the screen by Bong Joon Ho to make his 8th feature film to date. But it's needless to say, almost everyone has heard his name or at least knows of a film that he's made. From Memories to Murder to Snowpiercer to the film that solidified his directorial status as one of the greats, Parasite. His approach to storytelling is not only engaging, where the smallest details can actually spiral into the most pivotal plot points, but does so through relatable, realistic characters and a standout premise that keeps you on edge until the credits roll. So yeah, I was excited for this. I was excited a year ago, but I still am now. But for full disclosure, I haven't read the book. A teaser and multiple trailers are the only things that we had to drag us along in anticipation, in hopes to see it on the screen. Where it's 2054, the dystopian, overpopulated future, where in search of a new home in space, the assistance of newly developed technology has opened the door for such a wide variety of new jobs. And some are good, but some are bad. Most are bad. And on the shorter end of the stick is where we find Mickey, a skittish, down-on-his-luck guy played by Robert Patterson, who every time I see him, I just get reminded of this. From what we're led to know, Mickey signs on as an expendable employee, which, as the name leads you on to believe, he's expendable. Really expendable. Like the most. Whenever a task is deemed too difficult for a high-ranking employee, or could potentially, with the smallest chance, lead to death, that's where he steps in and dies. Sometimes, at least. Not all the time, but most of the time. Joining a crew's 4-year expedition, they set off to colonize the ice planet. Nope, that's almost. No, wait, is that no, wait. Yes, that one. Nifl. Nilf, what?
Stay tuned for those. This is a name from Norse.
Okay.
Cosmology.
Yeah, okay, that.
Nibelheim.
Which is derived from Norse mythology of being the cold, dark, misty world of the dead, ruled by goddess Hel. So in other words, home. Home sweet home. We catch glimpses of the journey ahead and what's expected to take place through the perspective of Mickey's multiples. Multiple Mickeys. As when Mickey dies, a new body is just 3D printed with his memories inside. And after dying 17 times, we find Mickey face to face with, well, you guessed it, himself. Mickey 18. And before going to see the movie, that's all we really have to go off of. Just an interesting otherworldly premise grounded in the social and economic hierarchical standing of society, where the people on bottom, at the bottom, quite literally become expendable to everyone overhead. But it's Mickey's journey in multiple perspectives that make this sound so enticing. Another David, or multiple Davids, versus the multi-corporation Goliath. One man's journey, multiple men's journey, to change the new world. But as I've said, this is all before I've seen it, so we'll just have to see how it turns out. So just give me a sec real quick, I'll be right back. Right back, 1 sec. Yeah, I'm back. I'm writing this quite literally right after I saw the film, sitting in my car in the parking lot. Well,
It was. I mean, it's alright.
okay, yeah, I didn't expect the meme to actually apply to the film. Really, I wrote that in just as a joke, but it was just, meh. An interesting setting and solid performance, hands down, of some of the best inserted to just what was a lackluster story with little payoff or build up to warrant such a payoff. It's a glass half empty, where there's enough to draw you in for a sip, but not really enough to satisfy your thirst. But you're not even left wanting more, but more so wondering about the other ways this story could have gone to make it less bland. If I had to give it a number out of 10, it's strong 6. Not bad, but not worth seeing again. Or at least anytime soon. Okay, and before I go any further into this and explain my reasoning and defend my take on this film, or not much to defend, but just talk about it, I'm gonna give a spoiler warning, just in case you haven't seen it or want to go see it spoiler free. But here we go. Essentially, here's the entire plot in a sentence. Running from his problems on Earth, Mickey finds love and individual worth free from his past on another world. But to put it even shorter, Mickey doesn't want to die. so he finds a way to live. Which, it does sound pretty interesting at face value. The development of a character we're led on to believe to have the lowest value, an expendable person assigned to die again and again and again for others' benefit. To see him not only find stable ground in someone else, his partner, Natasha, but to find it within himself, graduating from Mickey 17 to who he truly is, Mickey Barnes. And that aspect is only uplifted by the best parts of this movie, as I said for Bong Joon Ho's previous films and this one, being the setting and characters. Setting-wise, I mean, who hasn't imagined what it would be like or will be like in the future when the possibilities of space travel open up to the galaxy around us? A breath of fresh air from the home we associate with all of our problems. A gateway out of a future of overpopulation, pollution, political strife, and personal baggage. A new start. As that's what Mickey is after. Taking on any job, the worst job, to evade his debts put upon him by his friend Timo's bad investment in a macaroon business. Yeah, a macaroon business. Imagine that being your reason to get sent out of space. But when we watch Mickey go through the preparations for his position to then, as his memory is being copied for future prints, we see his past. And that's one thing I really wish they delved into a little more, as they tend to lean on it in many of their aspects as a crutch to carry your interest forward on this bland plot. In this moment, we get to see what Mickey blames himself for, his reasoning to accepting this life as a doormat for anyone to scrape their feet clean on. What he repeatedly labels as his punishment. His life, he labels it over and over as a punishment for his mother's death, blaming himself for a faulty car design that claimed her life in a crash. But that, with the macaroon business, is all we really get about his past. Motivators for his character to do anything to escape Earth. To start over. Crappy food, subpar living conditions, haphazard jobs, dangerous environment, demanding overhead. The joys that come with the dream of escape are doused in brutal honesty of what it would be like to travel in space. While not entirely unique, it executes the expected imagination of going to other worlds with the realistic limitations under a comedic curtain. It's a mix of Dune's futuristic societal issues with Jojo Rabbit's political off-the-cuff comedy. In Passengers, yeah. That's another thing that, while it makes sense in what would be going through people's heads and what they would be doing when confined to such a small shuttle for years on end, journeying across the stars, the way that it's inserted into this film, for the most part, feels unnecessary. Essentially less of a plot point and more of an answer to the sci-fi fantasy, what would I do if there were two of my partner? But once it passes, it only fades to be an audience puller. A juvenile reason to see the movie, not the bigger picture behind it, which limits Natasha's character. She comes off very one-noted. The rock for Mickey to lean on, but that's it. She protects him and loves him, but there's not much more to their relationship besides those two things. A shallow love that's founded off of one part's physical desire and the other's emotional dependency, which leads into the best part of the film to me, the characters. Led by his stellar cast, it seems impossible from the outside looking in, like this wouldn't be the best aspect. Robert Pattinson, Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette, Naomi Ackie, Steven Yeun. Each of these actors carry their roles and carve out themselves to not only be integral, but interesting parts of the story. Which, it's clear hands down that Robert Pattinson is, as expected, the best part of the film. Playing two vastly different personalities in Mickey 18 and Mickey 17, after Mickey surprisingly doesn't die from their new home's native species, the creepers, we watch him argue, reason, and bounce off himself in conversation and action again and again. And that is reason enough to see the movie if you enjoy him as an actor, as Robert's always portraying roles that break the perception of him left by Twilight. In this movie, he goes all out, with his enjoyment of the role evident in his wishy-washy, subservient 17 to the arrogant, vengeful, deceptive 18. Two characters on broad ends of the spectrum, played by one man. Their relationship serves as the progressor from a narrated past of misery on the ship to an all-out run through the frozen wasteland. Mickey 18 opens Mickey 17's eyes to the way they've been treated and the truth of their trauma, that it was just an accident and nothing more. And he leads them after the new source of their agony, being Kenneth Marshall, who, as they're discovered as multiples and sentenced to death, yet are saved by the creepers circling the ship for the release of their creeper on board, Luca. But then they're given an archaic opportunity, as Ilfa's discovered the tails of the creepers are delicious for sauces, and they're sent out to go retrieve tails, but then end up becoming the ambassadors for peace for humanity. But this is where the lackluster payoff sets in. After spending 2 hours with these characters through miscellaneous tasks and the struggles of living, it all builds to them making peace through the sacrifice of Mickey 18, who takes down Kenneth Marshall with him, and thereby freeing the crew from the previous societal reigns to start life on this planet with an unshackled step forward. But that's it. They travel to the planet, land, mutiny, they prepare to establish themselves in their future generations. And that's where it leaves you off. Really though, it's not a bad ending. It's a promising one for the future of Mickey to no longer see himself bound by a sin that was never his to bear. That he was less than human. But that here and now, there's nothing but opportunity in front of him. A life to be lived with someone he loves, free from who he was. I mean, it's sweet, but it just doesn't really leave an impact. Everything is shown beautifully, through the wide, desolate landscape, to the ship's tight, isolating layout, to Mickey's perception of it all, bound to him by his misery. But the way it's stitched together, starting at the middle, where Mickey 17 thinks he's going to die yet again, and then building back to that point, leaves the build-up as being really disorganized. The thoughts of a squeamish, unreliable narrator are the only explanation to overlay a collage of his deaths, problems, and reasoning for what he's thinking in the bottom of that ice crevice, that he just doesn't want to die anymore. And who can really blame him? And following that is where we watch Mickey try his best to live, making it back to the ship, fighting with herself to not be replaced, enduring another lab test of what was supposed to be a nice TV dinner as a reward for the crewmate of the week or the month, to then it ending with a gun to his head as he was given new painkillers and new meat hormones that only send him into a spiral of agony. It all makes it known that he no longer wants to go through this anymore, which I have to say is a sweet sentiment. The value of life resonating even through the worst of situations. It's just that they shove it in your face, as the repetitive question nails itself on your head whenever it can squeak itself in, being the obvious question it knows you probably came to the theater thinking about. What's it like to die? Which Mickey avoids answering throughout up until he just can't take it anymore, and he speaks his mind, his truth, that he doesn't want to die. And from that point on, he continues to do his best not to, pairing with Mickey 18 to not only not get cut up by Timo to appease their debts with the loan shark, but also to bring peace and establish themselves in a mutual relationship with the creepers. They escape the life of a cog in a machine to serve a single purpose of self-discovery, which leads to the realization of valuing their life for what it is, theirs to live. It's an uplifting message necessary for a time when everyone feels so unimportant, that we're nothing but background characters. But we're not. We're individuals. We're humans. We're people. You, me, and everyone. And we deserve our time to shine, to step forward and realize who we are and what we can do. And while this message isn't conveyed in the best of ways, I still enjoyed the movie for what it was. A character's journey to discover their worth, that they always had it and the people around them only accentuate it. TLDR, while Mickey 17 falls short in the delivery of this otherworldly political fever dream, the highlights of its characters and the premise that encompasses them is enough draw to laugh through the mistakes that poke holes in its simple plotline. An enjoyable watch relayed by talented actors. One thumb up. And yeah, that's my thoughts. But regardless of what I've said, my opinions or anything, go see it. Or if you don't want to see it, then don't. It's all up to you. Just don't let my review or someone else's opinion be what shuts the door on a new experience for you. Good or bad, it's better to have an experience than to miss out on one. Because that's what living is. A collage of experiences we face, overcome, and move on from. Like Mickey, who through death experiences the beginning and ending of life over and over again and again. Yet he continues to try again. He finds the will to live and makes a name for himself. Not as someone who can be easily replaced, no. But as what he is and what we all are. We're humans. We're more than our jobs, titles, monetary value, achievements, fame, or anything. We're people. One and the same by design, yet infinitely different by nature. That's why I'll appreciate this film all the more. It's something I anticipated, enjoyed, and I'll look back upon occasionally to then one day come across it on Netflix on empty Saturday evening. Another fun watch to open the door to a fond memory. And I look forward to making more this year and experiencing the list of films up for interpretation. But if there's one in particular you think would be a good watch, please let me know. I always love to check out movies I may have missed or overlooked. Genuinely, I'm really forgetful. Because as in all things made, there's something that can be appreciated. The effort, time, and emotions poured into a piece of art made to be shared. That's why I like to share through these videos, to see what you think and challenge myself to apply my thoughts into action, to make something and be proud of it, to share my thoughts. So until I have another thought, I appreciate you and I hope you have a great day.